Olivia stared at her father across the dining table, her fingers gripping the stem of her wineglass until her knuckles turned white. Her voice trembled as she asked, "You spent what on renovations?" 25 grand, Paul said, leaning back in his chair with a smug grin. "You should be proud. The house looks amazing." She wasn't proud. She was furious. Because the money didn't come from Paul's bank account. It came from hers. Her credit card, used without permission, without a warning, without a single ounce of remorse. "That's theft, Dad." He waved her off like she was being dramatic. "Relax. You've got a good job. You'll earn it back." But Olivia had no intention of earning it back. Not this time. This wasn't just about a $25,000 0 cents charge. This was about a lifetime of crossed boundaries, guilt trips, and entitled excuses. And this time, Olivia wasn't going to forgive and forget. She was going to fight back. Olivia Thompson had built her life with the same precision she used when balancing budgets at work. Methodical, focused, and completely independent. At 30 years old, she worked as a financial analyst at a respected investment firm. Her daily routine was a picture of order, meal-prepped lunches, perfectly categorized spreadsheets, and color P&S. She drove a dependable car, lived in a modest condo, and had spent the last 7 years building her savings account from scratch. Every dollar in that account told a story of skipped vacations, passed-up luxuries, and long nights at the office. Because Olivia knew what chaos looked like. She'd lived it. Her father, Paul, was the opposite of disciplined. He was charming. Too charming. The kind of man who made jokes at the dinner table, always had a story to tell, and could talk his way out of anything. To everyone else, he was the fun dad. To Olivia, he was a walking red flag of poor decisions wrapped in charisma. Her childhood was filled with broken promises and bounced checks. Paul always had a plan, a new venture, a side hustle that was guaranteed to take off. And when it didn't, when the credit cards maxed out and bills piled up, he turned to the one person who still believed in him. Olivia. "You know I'll pay you back," he'd say, his tone light, his smile confident. She heard those words so many times they lost all meaning. He'd borrowed from her piggy bank in elementary school, her college fund in high school, and later her emergency savings when she started her first job. And her mother, Elaine, didn't stop him. Elaine was the quiet one, the peacemaker. Whenever Olivia got upset, Elaine would simply sigh and say, "He's doing his best, Liv. We're family. We help each other." That line had haunted Olivia. So, she helped, again and again. But after college, she'd moved out, gotten a good job, opened new accounts, changed passwords, and tried to put up walls. She stopped lending money, stopped bailing them out. Or so she thought. Even with boundaries in place, guilt clung to her like smoke. She still went to Sunday dinners, still answered when her father called, still felt the sting of obligation every time she saw their number light up her phone. It was Maya who helped her see it for what it was. Maya had been Olivia's roommate in business school, now her closest friend, and the sharpest woman she knew. Maya didn't sugarcoat anything. She once told Olivia flat out, "Your dad's not just a flake, he's manipulative. He sees your success as his backup plan." At first, Olivia resisted that idea. But now, sitting across from Paul, hearing him brag about how beautiful the house looked after spending $25,000 of her money without her knowledge, now she saw it clearly. He didn't think he'd done anything wrong. Because to Paul, Olivia's hard work wasn't hers, it was his safety net. He didn't see her as a daughter. He saw her as a walking wallet. And until now, she had let him. But something cracked open inside her at that dinner table, something long buried under guilt and loyalty. She wasn't his little girl anymore. She was a grown woman. and she was done being his ATM. The moment Paul mentioned the renovations, Olivia felt her stomach twist into a knot. He said it so casually, like he was talking about the weather, as if using her money without asking was no big deal. As if he were doing her a favor by sprucing up a house that didn't even belong to her. But Olivia hadn't offered him a cent. She hadn't approved a loan. She hadn't even known he had access to any of her financial accounts. Later that night, adrenaline pulsing through her veins, she sat on the couch with her laptop open and her banking app pulled up. Her heart pounded as she scrolled through the charges. $3,800 to a luxury tile company, $6,200 to a high-sim cabinetry supplier, $11,000 to a contractor specializing in custom remodels. Every single charge was processed using her digital credit card. Every delivery address? Paul's house. She stared at the screen in disbelief. Her mind raced. She double-checked her email. No notifications. No receipts. Nothing sent to her. This wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was theft. She picked up the phone and called the bank. Her voice was steady, but her grip on the phone was tight. After a few security questions, a fraud representative came on the line. "This qualifies as unauthorized use," the rep confirmed. "We can initiate a formal investigation. Depending on the circumstances, it may escalate to a criminal report." Criminal report. Against her own father. Olivia thanked the rep, hung up, and just sat there. The silence in her apartment was deafening. Her father had stolen from her. She picked up the phone and called Maya. "He picked my card, Maya. $25,000. Without telling me." There was a pause on the other end. Maya's voice came through calm and steady. "He really did it." "Huh?" "She did. And what are you going to do about it?" Olivia stared at the transaction list on her screen. Her entire body felt like it was buzzing, torn between heartbreak and fury. "I'm going to report him," she said. And as the words left her lips, she didn't feel guilt. She didn't feel shame. She felt something else. Clarity. Because for the first time, she realized this wasn't just one mistake. This was the final straw in a long line of crossed boundaries, broken trust, and emotional manipulation. This time, she wasn't going to stay silent. This time, she was going to protect herself, no matter who it hurt, because she had been hurt long enough. And enough was enough. Paul called the next morning, his voice already raised before Olivia even said hello. "What the hell is this?" he barked. "I just got a notice from the bank. Fraud? Really, Olivia?" She sat at her kitchen table, staring out the window, her voice steady. "You used my credit card without permission. That's fraud." "Come on, it's the family house. You'll inherit it one day. I was investing in your future." "I never agreed to that." "You're seriously going to destroy your own father over a few renovations?" he demanded, his voice cracking. "I raised you. I paid for your clothes, your food, your school trip." "No, Mom did," Olivia snapped. "You just took the credit." There was a long pause on the line. Then he growled, "You're unbelievable." He hung up. An hour later, her mother called. Elaine's tone was softer, but it was laced with the same manipulative guilt Olivia had come to expect. "Sweetheart, your father is devastated," she said gently. "He was trying to make the house nice for all of us." "I didn't authorize anything," Olivia replied. "I know, but do you really want this to become a legal mess? What will the neighbors think?" "I don't care what the neighbors think," she said. "I care that he stole from me." Another pause. "You're choosing a report over your family?" her mother whispered. Olivia said, her voice firm. "I'm choosing me." She ended the call with her heart pounding, but her mind was clear. That afternoon, she met with Mr. Bennett, the fraud investigator assigned to her case. They sat in a small, windowless office as she handed over printouts of every unauthorized transaction. Purchase confirmations, shipping records, and emails. All of it, meticulously organized. Bennett flipped through the stack, nodding as he reviewed each document. "You've done everything right," he said. "We'll be submitting this to law enforcement for further investigation." Olivia exhaled. It was like releasing years of tension she hadn't even realized she was holding. She stood up, thanked him, and walked out of the bank feeling both exhausted and empowered. Her phone buzzed again as she stepped onto the sidewalk. "Paul." She stared at the screen. The same name she'd grown up seeing on birthday cards, late-night calls, and guilt-ridden voicemails. She didn't answer. She didn't even hesitate. She blocked the number. For the first time, the act of cutting him off didn't feel cruel. It felt like survival. She wasn't just protecting her finances, she was protecting herself. Because no matter how much he tried to twist it, this wasn't about a misunderstanding. It was about a man who believed her success was his to spend. And Olivia was done letting him. The more Olivia dug, the darker it got. She started scrolling through old emails, text messages, even voicemails she hadn't deleted. At first, she was just trying to understand when Paul had gotten access to her card. But as she went further back, a pattern began to emerge. One she hadn't wanted to see before. There it was, in message after message. "A little help this month, sweetie. You're doing great. I'm so proud of you. I'll pay you back after the holidays. You know I always do." But he never did. Not once. She remembered when he asked for $1,200, 0 cents, to fix his car. A week later, he posted pictures from a fishing trip with new gear and a chartered boat. Another time, he'd claimed he was being unfairly audited by the IRS and needed help covering a penalty. She wired him the money. Month later, she found out it was just overdue gambling debts. Back then, she'd told herself he was just bad with money, that he was embarrassed, that it wasn't her place to judge. But now she could see it clearly. It wasn't incompetence. It was strategy. She called Maya and spent the evening going over the timeline. Together, they pieced together a trail of financial manipulation going back almost a decade. Olivia reached out to a few cousins she hadn't spoken to in years. The responses were almost immediate. He borrowed from them too. Small amounts, medium ones, all with the same promises, all with the same ending. No repayment, no accountability. He wasn't just a charming screw-up, he was a serial user. When Paul called again, his tone was colder than ever. "You're ruining my life over some stupid mistake," he snapped. "Do you know what people are saying about me?" "I don't care," Olivia replied. "I'll sue you. I'll drag your name through the mud. Then we'll go to court," she said flatly. He paused, then laughed. "You think you're tough now, huh? Just wait until you're old and alone. See who comes to visit then." She hung up without another word. The next morning, there was a knock at her door. Olivia opened it to find her mother standing there, eyes red, shoulders slumped. Elaine looked like she hadn't slept. "Please don't do this," she whispered. "He's your father. He made a mistake." Olivia didn't move. "He stole from me. You were just trying to help the family, make the house better, something for all of us to enjoy. It's not his house anymore. It's debt, and he dumped it on me without asking. You're breaking this family apart." Olivia said calmly. "He already did that." Elaine's lips quivered. She looked at her daughter as if searching for the version of Olivia who would fold, who would cave, who would say, "Fine, I'll fix it." But she wasn't that girl anymore. Olivia stood tall in the doorway, arms crossed, not flinching. Her mother blinked rapidly, then turned and walked away, without another word. Olivia shut the door behind her. For the first time, she didn't cry. She didn't feel guilt. She felt clear. And for once, her silence wasn't fear. It was power. The police didn't waste time. Within days of Olivia submitting her affidavit, and a carefully documented folder of bank records, digital receipts, and screenshots of Paul's social media posts boasting about the renovations, the local precinct scheduled a formal interview with him. Paul walked in like he was headed to a cocktail party. Collared shirt, a confident smile, and that same practiced charm he'd used to deflect responsibility for years. He laughed with the receptionist. He thanked the officer who let him in, and when the questions began, he shrugged and said it was all a misunderstanding. A family miscommunication, he said smoothly. I used the card, sure, but it wasn't malicious. Olivia's just overreacting. You know how daughters get. But the officers weren't moved. They had evidence. They had time-stamped purchase orders, shipments that matched renovation progress. Olivia's notarized statement detailing every unauthorized charge. 3 days later, Paul was served official criminal theft charges. When Olivia's phone rang again, it was her mother. The tears were gone now. The voice on the other end was sharp. Are you happy now? Your father might go to jail. Olivia took a breath. He should have thought of that before stealing from me. Your father? He's a thief. That weekend, Paul showed up outside Olivia's apartment. She had just made tea when she heard shouting from the driveway. You ungrateful brat, he screamed. After everything I'd done, I should have left you at the hospital when you were born. She didn't go outside. She stood quietly at the window, recording every word. Her hands didn't shake. Her voice didn't rise. Instead, she called the police. Officers arrived in minutes. Paul was still shouting when they pulled up. The video was added to the case file. And just like that, Paul's reputation began to unravel. No more barbecue invitations. No more poker nights. No more neighborhood sympathy. People who had once called him a fun guy started to whisper. They remembered the money he borrowed and never paid back. The favors, the broken promises. Olivia met with the district attorney the following week, Maya sitting beside her for support. They reviewed her documents one last time. Then Olivia signed a formal declaration confirming her intent to press charges. She didn't flinch. A week later, Paul was arrested. He'd posted bail the next day, but something had shifted. The damage was no longer just legal. It was personal, communal, permanent. And Olivia? She didn't hide. She didn't shout, either. Instead, she submitted an anonymous article to her company's internal newsletter. It was titled, When the Thief is Family. In it, she detailed how financial abuse often hides behind jokes and guilt trips, how charm can be a mask for control, how silence keeps victims trapped. She didn't name Paul. She didn't have to. Within hours, her inbox filled with responses. Colleagues she barely knew thanked her. One woman shared that her brother had emptied her savings after getting power of attorney. Another revealed that her ex-husband had forged her signature on a home loan. They weren't angry emails. They were letters of relief, of connection. And Olivia realized something powerful. She wasn't alone. She never had been. She just hadn't known how many others were carrying the same weight in silence. Now, she had reclaimed her voice. And in doing so, she helped others find theirs. 2 months after filing her report, Olivia received an email from the bank. Her $25,000, 0 cents, had been fully restored. The fraud claim had been validated, and the funds were officially back in her account. She sat at her desk, staring at the screen for a long moment. It wasn't just about the money. It was about everything it represented: control, boundaries, power. The legal process had drained her. There were sleepless nights, anxiety spikes, and moments where doubt tried to creep in. But she had stood firm. She had spoken the truth, and she had won. Meanwhile, Paul, now facing overwhelming evidence and public embarrassment, entered plea negotiations. He no longer had the community on his side. The video of him screaming outside her home had circulated. People who once defended him now kept their distance. Olivia received a notice of his court date and sentencing hearing. She deleted it. She didn't need to be there. She didn't need to watch him make excuses or deliver a forced apology. She had already reclaimed what mattered. Weeks later, Olivia received a message on social media from her cousin Rachel, who she hadn't spoken to in years. They agreed to meet for coffee. Sitting in the corner of a quiet cafe, Rachel revealed something Olivia hadn't known. "Years ago," Rachel said, "your dad opened a credit card in my name. I didn't find out until I was applying for a loan. He told me it was a mistake. I let it go." Olivia reached across the table and took Rachel's hand. "I thought I was the only one," Rachel said. "You're not," Olivia replied softly. That moment felt like fresh air after a long storm. It was honest. It was healing. It reminded Olivia that shame doesn't belong to the person who was used. It belongs to the person who did the using. Her relationship with her mother remained distant. Elaine called occasionally, but their conversations were brief. The silence between them held more weight than anything spoken. Olivia no longer felt responsible for mending it. She had spent too many years trying to keep the peace while sacrificing her own. Instead, she focused inward. She began therapy with a woman who specialized in adult children of narcissistic parents. Slowly, she unpacked decades of guilt, confusion, and grief. She cried for the little girl who kept hoping her father would finally choose her over himself. And then she let that little girl grow up. At work, things blossomed. Olivia received a promotion to senior financial analyst. Her supervisor praised her attention to detail and calm leadership. She was asked to begin mentoring newer hires, particularly younger women starting their careers. She agreed, but only on one condition. Every session would begin with a discussion on financial boundaries. She told them the truth. Not the courtroom details, just the lesson, that love doesn't excuse manipulation, and loyalty doesn't require silence. Inspired by the flood of responses from her anonymous article, Olivia decided to write again. This time, publicly. She posted a blog under the name OT, titled, "The Cost of Being a Good Daughter." She spoke about how guilt can trap us, how manipulation can hide in smiles, and how it's okay to say no, even to the people who raised you. The post went viral. Hundreds of comments poured in. Women, men, college students, parents, professionals. All of them had their own version of Paul. And all of them were done keeping it quiet. So was Olivia. She hadn't just restored her finances. She had restored her voice. Paul took a plea deal. The court spared him jail time, but he was ordered to repay Olivia in monthly installments and complete a series of financial accountability classes. The restitution would take years to fulfill, and the classes were mandatory and monitor. He had no room left to hide behind charm or excuses. When Olivia received the court update, she didn't feel vindicated. She didn't feel rage or satisfaction. She felt nothing. It was like reading a stranger's name in the news, a man she used to know, a man who used to hold power over her, but not anymore. A few days later, her phone buzzed with a voicemail from Elaine. Olivia didn't answer. She played it once, just long enough to hear her mother's voice, weary and sharp. "He's miserable. He blames everyone but himself. Olivia didn't finish listening. She didn't need to. She deleted it. She was done carrying weight that didn't belong to her. It was a warm Sunday when she and Maya sat on the balcony of her apartment, watching the sky bleed into pink and orange. A gentle breeze moved through the potted plants Olivia had nurtured like symbols of peace. They sipped tea and shared stories about work, laughed about office gossip, and marveled at how far things had come. Maya leaned back in her chair. "Think you'll ever talk to him again?" Olivia didn't hesitate. She shook her head. "I don't owe him anything." Maya nodded, saying nothing. She didn't need to. Olivia reached for her phone and opened her voicemail inbox. One last message from Paul sat at the bottom, unopened for weeks. She hovered for a moment, then tapped. His voice came through, low and bitter. "You made your point, Olivia. Hope you're proud. Everyone sees what you did. Just remember, family doesn't forget." There was a pause, as if he was waiting for guilt to fill the silence. Then the line disconnected. Olivia stared at the screen, not angry, just tired. She hit delete. And just like that, the last piece of him was gone. Not the memories, not the lessons, but the power. The ability to shame her, guilt her, control her. He didn't have it anymore. She was free. In the weeks that followed, she stopped waiting for apologies that would never come. She stopped trying to fix relationships that had always been one-sided. She started saying no, firmly, kindly, and without fear. She filled her time with people who respected her boundaries, with work that energized her, and with small moments of peace that once felt impossible. She wasn't broken. She wasn't bitter. She was awake. She was whole. She had faced betrayal not from a stranger, but from someone who was supposed to protect her. And she had chosen herself. The sun dipped behind the skyline. Olivia took a breath. For the first time in her life, it felt like hers. Olivia's story isn't just a cheating story. It's not about a romantic betrayal or a simple act of theft. It's about the slow erosion of trust, the quiet manipulation disguised as love, and the courage it takes to finally say, "No more." This is a story about boundaries. About standing your ground when the person taking advantage of you shares your blood. When Olivia's father stole from her, it wasn't just money he took. He tried to rewrite the narrative of her life. He tried to convince her that love meant sacrifice, that silence was strength, and that loyalty meant surrender. But Olivia chose something different. She chose truth. She chose herself. And if you've ever been in that place where love and guilt blur into one, where saying no feels like betrayal, this story is for you. You are not selfish for protecting your peace. You are not wrong for demanding accountability. You are not cruel for drawing a line. It's never too late to say enough is enough. Olivia's story is a reminder that boundaries are not walls, they are doors. And on the other side of that door is your freedom. She turned years of pain into purpose. And if she can do it, so can you. If this story resonated with you, if it reminded you of your own strength, or helped you reclaim your voice, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to Veiled Fury. Because here, we don't just survive betrayal. We rise from it, together.